What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, March 23rd, 2024, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. We have some major breaking news coming in this morning. So, the Russian FSB is now claiming that the weapons used by the terrorists were prepared in advance in a cache, and that after the attack, they intended to flee to Ukraine and had assistance on the Ukrainian side waiting for them. Okay, so the Russian FSB, that's the new KGB, that's the equivalent of the CIA in Russia, is claiming that the terrorists that carried out the attack on the Crocus City Hall had help from Ukraine, that they had assistance in Ukraine, and that they were trying to flee to Ukraine after the attack, and that they had a weapons cache prepared for the attack. And they're also claiming that they detained two suspects in the Bryansk region of Russia when a car with the suspects was stopped by police, and four suspects from the car escaped. Okay, and they were apparently trying to go towards Ukraine from Bryansk. Okay, so you see how Russia is connecting the dots, and it's all going back to Ukraine. I told you guys that this was going to happen, that they were going to find a way to blame Ukraine, and that's what ultimately is going to happen here. Is they're going to find a way to connect the dots to Ukraine, and they're going to say Ukraine was responsible, and then Putin is going to do something very drastic and escalate significantly in Ukraine. This is what Putin did in 1999 before the Second Chechen War, and this is what made Putin very popular in Russia, was the apartment bombings in 1999 and the way he handled that. And he went right into Chechnya a week after those bombings and leveled the entire city of Grozny. And it later came out that those apartment bombings were staged by the FSB. And how do we know that they were staged? Well, local police actually stopped FSB agents trying to plant explosives in apartments. And then later on, it turned out that they were FSB agents, and the FSB made up a story that they were just doing a training exercise. But this was in 1999, and it looks like Putin is trying to do the same thing now to get domestic support for more mobilization and an escalation in Ukraine. Okay. If you don't believe me, you can research those bombings for yourself. And reports about the three Tajikistan citizens whose pictures were shared on social media as being the shooters are fake, and they are not involved in committing any crimes on Russian territory. Two of them are currently in Tajikistan, and another works in Samara. This was reported by the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Tajikistan. And as of right now, Russia is still looking for four suspects, and ISIS has claimed responsibility for this attack. And the U.S. is sticking to the position that it was an ISIS attack, while many high-level figures in Russia are saying that it was not ISIS and that that's a fake claim, and they're blaming Ukraine and or the CIA for being responsible for planning and or carrying out the attack. Okay, the death toll has gone up to 115. Okay, that is absolutely insane, and this is coming from the Russian government, and the Russian government is saying that that number will likely climb a lot higher. Okay, so I think when all is said and done, we're going to see hundreds of deaths from this attack. And the Ministry of Emergency Situations of the Russian Federation reported that the concert hall at the Crocus City Hall in Moscow has been completely destroyed by the fires that were started by the shooters yesterday. And Russia is going to demand a Security Council meeting at the UN to discuss this attack. This update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply has brought back their 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com. And the link is in the description below this video. But this 3-month emergency food supply has a 25-year shelf life. It includes over 2,000 calories per day. Breakfasts, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks, all contained within 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get $200 off or 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. Free shipping is included. They also have a general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running various discounts. And to get to their general store, you just got to click on the My Patriot Supply logo when you get to preparewithNYPrepper.com at the top of the page, and you'll see their general store where they sell all kinds of prepping and survival products, and they're always running discounts here. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get 25% off of the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. And what's interesting is there was also an arson attack reported against the prosecutor's office building in the village of Karovsky in the Moscow region. And according to eyewitnesses, a Ukrainian flag was placed on the building. Okay, so that could have been some other type of false flag related to this or not related. And Deputy Chairman of the Defense Committee of the Russian Federation Council said that what happened in the Crocus building as a terrorist attack and sabotage by Ukraine. Okay, so we have the Deputy Chairman of the Defense Committee of the Russian Federation saying that this was a terrorist attack and sabotage by Ukraine. The Russian ambassador Rodion Moroshnik said the USA was aware of this attack and the preparations for this attack. Okay, so you see how they're starting to blame the US and Ukraine. Maria Zakharova, the foreign ministry spokesperson, called the terrorists responsible for yesterday's attack in Moscow bloody bastards, strongly emphasizing their unrealized plans to escape to Ukraine. Russian newspaper Kommersant, citing sources, said the attackers of the Crocus City Hall were Slavs above average height and may have used fake beards and mustaches and were likely part of the pro-Ukraine Russian volunteer corps. Okay, so Russian newspaper Kommersant is saying that these were Slavs that were wearing fake beards and mustaches and probably were the Russian partisans. Okay, chief propagandist in Russia and owner of RT or Russia Today, Margarita Simonian, is claiming that the statement of the Islamic State is fake. Okay, so the Islamic State posted a statement on their Telegram claiming responsibility. She's saying that it's fake. And former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, stated that the statements made on behalf of ISIS claiming responsibility for the terror attack in Moscow were fake. Medvedev, who is deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, posted a threat on Telegram to ruthlessly destroy those responsible, their families, and state officials of the country the attackers were from, and going on to basically claim that it was Ukraine that was responsible. He wrote, "Terrorists understand only reciprocal terror. No trials or investigations will help if force is not answered with force, and deaths with total punishment of terrorists and repression of their families. That's our worldly experience. If it can be established that these terrorists were from the Kiev regime, it's impossible to deal with them and those who have been inspired by their ideology any other way. They must all be found and ruthlessly destroyed as terrorists, including official representatives of the state that committed such an atrocity. Okay, so you see, they're going towards Ukraine now. It's all about Ukraine. It's Ukraine's fault. It's America's fault. America knew about it. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay. And Dmitry Medvedev is now pointing towards the Kiev regime and that they need to be dealt with and ruthlessly destroyed. And Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has released a statement to say that it categorically rejects the accusations which Russian officials started to make, claiming that Ukraine was involved in the shooting at the Crocus Concert Hall near Moscow. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry said, "We consider such accusations to be a planned provocation by the Kremlin to further fuel anti-Ukrainian hysteria in Russian society, create conditions for increased mobilization of Russian citizens to participate in the criminal aggression against our country, and discredit Ukraine in the eyes of the international community." And the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry accuses Russian secret services of planning the deadly attack on a concert hall near Moscow. The terrorist attack in Moscow was a planned and deliberate provocation by the Russian special services on Putin's orders, the service said, adding that the aim was to further escalate and expand the war with Ukraine. And the Freedom of Russia Legion, that's one of the Russian partisan groups or Russian rebels that are now fighting in Russia against Russian forces, are saying that the Legion is not at war with peaceful Russians and accused Russia's security forces of planning the attack. The official statement on the ISIS Telegram channel reads as follows: Islamic State fighters attacked a large gathering of Christians in the city of Krasnogorsk on the outskirts of the Russian capital, Moscow, killing and wounding hundreds and causing great destruction to the place before they withdrew to their bases safely. Okay, so that's the official statement by ISIS on Telegram. The attackers had used Molotov cocktails and detonated multiple IEDs and may have also had flamethrowers, according to eyewitnesses. Many people died hiding in bathrooms from smoke inhalation. The attackers poured flammable liquid and set fire to the upholstery of the chairs in the concert hall. Multiple media sources are reporting that a body was found with an explosive device taped to it. And U.S. National Security Council spokesman Adrienne Watson said she confirms that as soon as intelligence was received earlier this month regarding the imminent threat of an ISIS terrorist attack against civilian gatherings in Moscow, the information was provided to Russian officials under Intelligence Community Directive 191, duty to warn, at the same time that the State Department travel warning was released on March 7th. So many of you guys may remember about 2 weeks ago, there was this travel warning that the US and Great Britain and Germany and multiple Western countries put out, saying that there was an increased likelihood of terror attacks in Moscow over the next 48 hours, and people should avoid large public gatherings, especially concert halls. Well, that was 2 weeks ago. And so, very interesting timing. And the president of Serbia said the US and the UK had prior knowledge of the attacks, referencing the March 7 security alert put out by the US, the UK, Germany, and others about attacks on concerts. He said calls from the US and British embassies for their citizens not to visit the shopping centers in Moscow indicate that their intelligence services had information about possible terror attacks. On March 7th, the American embassy called on its citizens not to visit shopping centers. Then the British and someone else did the same. This means that their intelligence services intercepted certain negotiations, received information, and knew that something would happen. He said this in a broadcast on PRVA TV channel in Serbia, and he said that the attack will have incalculable consequences for the region. He noted that while it is unclear who exactly orchestrated the terror attack, there is no doubt that there will be further escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. And Poland is preparing for extreme regional consequences as a result of the attack. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has put Polish security services on high alert for what he calls extreme regional consequences after this attack. And a new oil refinery was hit by a Ukrainian drone 1,200 kilometers away from the Ukrainian border in the Samara region. 1,200 kilometers, guys. Another refinery, and really, really far from the border with Ukraine. And massive shelling is continuing in Belgorod. Unfortunately, I cannot show the footage of that because they're going to demonetize or even give me a strike. So, but take my word for it, guys. The situation in Belgorod is continuing to spiral out of control. I reported 2 days ago that Russia basically has already turned one of their own villages into like a small Bakhmut. They've literally started just shelling the crap out of their own villages to try to get rid of these Russian rebels, and they're not able to do it. They sent the Spetsnaz in, they sent in tanks, and now they're shelling. Okay? So this is a continuing situation, and Russia has warned Japan of serious consequences if Japan transfers Patriot missiles to Ukraine. And El Salvador is going nuclear. This was announced by the El Salvador president. Not sure what that means, if he's talking about power plants or nuclear weapons. Here we have a video of one of the suspects. This was released by the Russian government. They apparently captured this guy in Bryansk. Okay. So it looks kind of fake. I don't know, guys. It looks kind of fake to me, but this is apparently one of the shooters. This is one of the suspects, and they have him tied up here, and they're questioning him, asking him why he did it. And he said that apparently he was going to get paid 500,000 rubles, which is not a lot of money. I think that's just like $5,000 or $10,000 to kill hundreds of people. It doesn't seem right to me, but I guess some people are really desperate for money. But this is apparently one of the suspects here. And I want to remind you guys that Belarus is creating a no-fly zone from April 1st through June the 30th for the southern part of their country, which means that there's going to be some possible invasion going on here from Belarus into Ukraine if they have to shut down this entire airspace for everyone except military planes. That's very suspicious. So Belarus is probably going to be launching missiles, maybe sending attack helicopters, whatever, from their territory into Ukraine. So they shut down the airspace here. Very suspicious. I want to remind you guys that Belarus has moved an entire mechanized brigade to within 10 miles of the Lithuanian border near the capital Vilnius. And this mechanized brigade has been put on a wartime status, and they've even drafted 3,000 people to bring this brigade up to a wartime status. Okay, this is the 19th Mechanized Brigade of the Belarusian Armed Forces, 62 T-72s in this brigade, 219 combat armored vehicles, 78 artillery systems, 14 air defense systems, okay, all being moved to within 10 miles of the Lithuanian border and being put on a wartime status. Here we have pictures of them training. Absolutely insane, guys, okay? So everything could all pop off at once, okay? We could see Belarus go after Lithuania and Poland. We could see Russia escalate massively in Ukraine. And just the other day, 2 days ago, Russia launched missiles at the Dnipro Dam, which is just 20 miles north of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. It has 6 nuclear reactors. Nobody's talking about this. Everybody's focused on this attack in Russia. And if that dam breaks, which it still could break, even though it didn't break initially, there could be structural damage, and over time it could fail and release millions and millions of gallons, and that would just flood the entire Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, and we would have a meltdown the likes of which we've never seen on planet Earth. Okay, it would be like Chernobyl times 5. Okay, so that is very, very serious. Nobody's talking about that. Okay, so get prepared. Things are really spiraling out of control. Here we have a picture showing the Belarusian brigade training with their T-72s. And also during that strike on the Dnipro Dam, Russia also cut one of the main power lines that goes to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. So the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant only has one power line now for essential functions. They have their backup 330 kilovolt line that they're using to power everything in the power plant to keep the spent fuel cool and to keep the reactor cool. Okay. If that backup line fails, they're going to be running off of generators, okay? And good luck refueling generators in the middle of a war zone, okay? Especially when Russia's the one doing the refueling. We know Russia has a terrible track record for managing nuclear power plants. Just look at Chernobyl, okay? So this is very, very concerning. Only one power line connecting the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant to the power grid. We have multiple missiles hitting the Dnipro Dam just upstream. There could still be a chance that that dam could break and fail now because of those strikes. And if that's not bad enough, we had the Serbian president threaten to invade Kosovo a few days ago. And here we have video footage that was shared by the prime minister of Kosovo showing Serbian army soldiers literally just meters away from the border with Kosovo. So this could all pop off at the same time. Okay. So get prepared, guys. And in addition, we have more escalation in the South China Sea. Here we have a video showing the Chinese Coast Guard blasting what appears to be a Philippine fishing boat with water cannons. Okay. Look what they're doing, guys. Okay. The Philippines has had enough of Chinese bullying. They've already said that they're not going to tolerate it anymore. So it could be a Philippines versus China war and not a Taiwan versus China war. And China's been sending a ton of uh, planes and naval vessels to the Taiwan Strait. The last couple of days, they've sent the most this year so far. So things are really escalating, guys. So I'll be back later on today with more breaking news. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell icon down below so you get notified when I post these updates. And until then, take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. Guys, the world is getting crazier by the day. We're on the verge of World War III. The U.S. is drowning in trillions of dollars in debt. Inflation is at an all-time high, and there's no end in sight. So you need to prepare your finances for the future with precious metals. Precious metals are a great way to protect your hard-earned savings and retirement against inflation and the uncertainty of the stock market. Also, precious metals are good to have for the purposes of preparedness, to be able to barter with people for essential supplies if the grid goes down. Every prepper should have at least a small amount of silver coins. The company I trust for my precious metals is Midas Gold Group. Text NYPrepper to 232425 for free information on precious metals. Midas Gold Group is 100% veteran owned and supports veterans through the Wounded Warrior Project. Midas Gold Group will work with you to convert part of your retirement savings into gold or to set up a gold IRA. And unlike many precious metals dealers, Midas Gold Group offers precious metals in small denominations, which is great for preparedness, so you have something tangible to use for bartering when the grid goes down. precious metals have continuously risen in price over the past 100 years and are considered a safe investment. So text NYPrepper to 232-425 for free information and to get started today.